Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tracking one of the most incredible hero's journeys in the history of modern sports. We're going to explore the life and legacy of a guy who literally rose from gritty, unforgiving streets to become this incredibly elegant artist on the pitch, and then a true tactical mastermind on the touchline. We're, of course, talking about the one and only Zinedine Zidane. We're going to break down his whole timeline, looking at exactly how his raw talent, intense discipline, and just his totally unique way of seeing the game let him conquer the footballing world not just once, but twice. Okay, let's dive into this. Journalist Sid Lowe totally hit the nail on the head here. When we usually talk about sports superstars, we're obsessed with speed, power, or crazy stats. But with Zidane, the vocabulary changes completely. He wasn't just an athlete, right? He was literally a footballing artist. He had this mesmerizing balance and touch that completely disguised how physically strong he actually was. But where did that balletic grace actually come from? Well, to understand the artist, we really have to look at the environment that forged him. Chapter 1, The Streets of Marseille. Zinedine Zidane was born into a world of massive contrasts. Just outside his door was La Castellane, a super tough, notoriously rough northern suburb of Marseille. We're talking soaring crime rates and a staggering 60% unemployment rate. Pretty bleak, right? But inside his home, totally different story. His parents, Smail and Malika, who had emigrated from a Berber-speaking village in Algeria years earlier, created this incredibly stable sanctuary. His dad worked night shifts as a warehouseman and security guard while his mom managed the home. They lived in an apartment so tiny that the family literally had to eat their meals in shifts. Yet, despite the chaos right outside their window, his parents provided a strict, modest, and incredibly grounded life. So the crucial point is right here, captured perfectly by his father, Smail. An immigrant must work twice as hard. This wasn't just some passing piece of dad advice. This was the foundational philosophy of Zidane's entire life. This profound driving motivation, this relentless, absolutely grueling work ethic, was instilled in him from day one. It was an internal fire, completely intertwined with his fierce pride in his dual Algerian-French heritage. The effortless elegance we'd all eventually see on the global stage, that was built on a massive foundation of raw grit learned in Marseille. Let's move to and see how this builds, because tracing his early years, you literally see this work ethic in action. It all kicks off at age 5, playing barefoot on Place Tartan. That's the concrete central square of his housing complex. By age 10, he gets his first official license with a local club, US St. Henry. 2 years later, he moves up to SO Septems-les-Vallons. And then, the breakthrough. At age 14, during a regional training camp, his raw, unpolished talent catches the eye of AS Con scout Jean Varro. The kid who learned to control the ball on unforgiving concrete was officially on his way to the pros. All right, moving into Chapter 2, 1998, France's national hero. So, after rising through the ranks at Cannes, dominating at Bordeaux, and completely conquering Italy with Juventus, Zidane arrives at the ultimate stage. It's the 1998 World Cup final, on home soil, against a heavily favored Brazil. The pressure was, it was basically unimaginable. A whole nation of 60 million people holding its collective breath. But Zidane delivered. 2. That's the magic number. 2 spectacular headers scored from corner kicks in just the first half of that massive final. Up until that match, he hadn't even had his best tournament. But when the pressure hit its absolute peak, his elegance and fundamentals just sharpened. Those 2 goals shattered Brazil's defenses and won France their first ever World Cup with a totally dominant 3-0 victory. And this brilliantly illustrates the massive cultural impact of that single performance. We're talking over 1 million joyous people flooding the Champs-Élysées to celebrate. Zidane's face, towering over Paris, was projected right onto the Arc de Triomphe, along with the words, "Merci Zizou." He wasn't just a playmaker anymore, you guys. He was a national hero. In that moment, he became the ultimate unifying face of a modern, diverse France. Chapter 3, The Iconic 2002 Volley. Having conquered the international stage, let's fast forward to the absolute peak of his club career. It's 2002, he's now playing for Real Madrid after a world record transfer, and they're in the Champions League final against Bayer Leverkusen. I want you to picture the setup for this legendary volley. The pass from his teammate Roberto Carlos wasn't some neat, rolling ball on the grass, no way. It was a high, looping, seemingly chaotic ball just dropping out of the Glasgow sky right onto the edge of the penalty box. To almost any other player on earth, it would have been a terrible, terrible pass to try and control, let alone actually shoot. But as Roberto Carlos himself later noted with a total smirk, it was perfect. Why? Because Zidane possessed a genuinely supernatural level of anticipation. He didn't just watch the game, he read it seconds ahead of everyone else on the pitch. He took this chaotic, high-pressure setup and turned it into a flawless opportunity, simply because he had absolute, total command over the fundamentals of the sport. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we can actually deconstruct the anatomy of that iconic volley into 3 distinct steps. First, he reads the trajectory perfectly as the ball drops from the sky. Second, he adjusts his stance without a single flinch or scramble, total body control. And third, he strikes it on the volley with his weaker left foot with absolute surgical calm. This, right here, is the very essence of his famous La Pausa, a pure masterclass in deceleration and balance, and a modern game that is otherwise completely, utterly obsessed with speed. Which brings us to Chapter 4, the managerial three-peat. So, Zidane's story obviously didn't end when he hung up his boots. Actually, when he retired, he famously swore he had zero interest in coaching. Yet, plot twist, in January 2016, he surprised the whole world by taking charge of Real Madrid. And his coaching philosophy? Fascinating. In an era completely dominated by hyper-tactical managers who literally micromanage every single blade of grass, Zidane did the exact opposite. He limited tactical instructions, he heavily promoted player freedom. He'd give his team maybe 1, 2, or 3 simple instructions and always finished his pre-match talks by just saying, "Now go and enjoy yourself on the pitch." He completely trusted his world-class talent and united a notorious dressing room with quiet, confident leadership. But look, definitely don't mistake that simplicity for a lack of intelligence. His tactical brilliance was sneaky but incredibly effective. He successfully repopularized the 4-4-2 diamond formation in the contemporary game. He intelligently reshaped the midfield, pushing the defensive midfielder, Casemiro, further forward, which then allowed elite playmakers like Toni Kroos and Luka Modric to operate deeper and completely dictate possession. It gave them the absolute perfect balance of attack and defense for a squad just loaded with global superstars. And the ultimate result of that perfectly balanced system? 3. Under his calm guidance, Real Madrid won an unprecedented back-to-back-to-back Champions League titles in 2016, 2017, and 2018. I mean, no manager in the modern Champions League era had ever pulled off a three-peat before. He managed the massive egos, absorbed all the insane media pressure, and literally engineered historical success. So let's wrap this up. Conclusion: the complete footballer. From the gritty concrete of Marseille, working twice as hard just to be noticed, to the absolute summit of global footballing royalty, both as a player and a manager, his legacy endures because he stayed true to his core principles. As modern superstar Kylian Mbappé notes, if you're a boy and you're French, your idol is Zidane. He remains the ultimate role model, a man who absorbed the absolute harshest pressures and responded with breathtaking elegance time and time again. So, I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. Will football ever see another figure conquer the game so completely as both a pure artist on the pitch and an absolute mastermind on the touchline? It's a staggering legacy. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep analyzing, and I'll catch you next time.